Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kavri, a couple that loves to play board games.
And art.
We do love art, but sometimes it's easier just to play board games about art.
Exactly. Now today we'll be doing an overview of Canvas. And not only Canvas, the expansions, the big box, everything you need to know about Canvas, the board game.
Everything.
Everything.
Mm-hmm. Canvas is designed by Jeffrey Chin and Andrew Nerger, and the art is done by Luan Huynh. And, of course, it's published by Road To Infamy.
Now, what is Canvas?
In Canvas, you'll take the role of a prestigious artist competing in a renowned art festival. And you'll want to do your best to create works of art that score you lots of points to earn the best score.
And the points are ribbons.
Ribbons.
Ribbons indeed. Let's give you an overview of how to play Canvas. As always, you'll begin by setting up. Each player will receive 3 background cards and 4 inspiration tokens. The main board will contain the canvas mat, 4 scoring cards chosen randomly or based on the scenario you wish to play, and all the ribbons matching the ribbon icons on the mat. The art cards will be shuffled and 5 cards will be revealed on the mat, and you're now ready to play. On your turn, you'll either take an art card or complete a painting. When choosing to take an art card, the leftmost card is always free to take. However, if you wish to take the card down the line, you'll add an inspiration token to each art card prior to taking it. Your hand limit for the game is 5 cards. If you have 3 cards in your hand, you may now, instead of taking an art card, complete a painting. If you do have the full 5 cards in play, you must do this action. You'll take exactly 3 art cards, arrange them in any order, and place them in one of your background card sleeves. All the visible icons you see will now score ribbons based on the condition for each ribbon. Some ribbons can even be awarded multiple times with a single painting based on your scoring conditions. You'll keep playing, taking cards, and painting until every player has completed their 3 paintings. At this point, you'll score your ribbons based on the value set by the card. Silver ribbons will always be worth 2 points. You'll tally your scores, and the player with the most wins. If there is a tie, you'll break the tie with the inspiration tokens. And that's Canvas. So now with the overview out of the way, let's talk about some of the key features of this game. What should we start with?
I think the best feature of this game, or the key feature of this game, is the fact that it's a card crafting, drafting game.
Crafting and drafting, baby.
So you've got these 2 very unique mechanics. You don't often see the card crafting in many of board games, but with this, you got the chance to layer all these art cards to make these beautiful scenes and score yourself a bunch of points.
And the card crafting in this game is actually very thematic. I feel like any other card crafting game, you're not necessarily fitting with a theme, where here you're actually creating a piece of art.
Yes.
And I find like the titles that come out to be, they're quite funny. The combinations of all the cards as well, like anything can really happen in your painting.
Even the color combinations that are on those cards, they speak volumes to like what you can expect in the actual art piece. So I think it's always interesting to be able to, make a wild amount of combinations with just those cards.
Another key feature of this game is the production quality. This game is a piece of art in itself. You can even hang it up with a little hole right here. So it can sit there subtly, and all of a sudden you're like, do you want to play a game? Let me just take off my art piece from the wall.
It's true. Ours is usually hangs on the wall right over there.
I tricked my sister. I was like, hey, go pick up that game. She's like, this? Beyond that too, the production quality in this game is just quite great. The clear sleeves, the way that the cards come in, even the player mat initially of having all the cards laid out, and the little wooden easels that came with the Kickstarter that you can display your paintings of art. There's little touches in here that really speak to the artist within.
And it all brings it back together in this thematic sense, which is our next point, is the theme for this game is definitely a key feature. You definitely feel like you're creating these works of art under a bit of a crunch as well, so that's always interesting to see. And then of course you're trying to outscore your opponents, so you really do feel like you are in that art competition.
I really like the inspiration tokens too, because you're sprinkling a little bit of inspiration throughout before choosing what's going to come to mind. And I think that part is just, you really feel completely in the game when doing that.
Yes. Yeah, leaving that trail of tokens along the way is like a nice little, oh, I thought about this, but I'm not going to do it. Moving on.
And last but certainly not least, another key feature of this game is how approachable it is. On your turn, you're picking a card. or you're painting a painting. When you have too many cards, you have to paint a painting. It's very straightforward. The complexity is really in how you layer the cards and figure out the best combinations to score the most ribbons. But because of that, it introduces such a simple mechanic that can be later scaled up, as you will see in this video.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, because it's approachable, it's also a lighter game, so you can expect to be able to get through a round or entire game of Canvas in about 30 minutes, which means if you're really interested and you want to take another go at it, you're always able to get a few games in during your game night.
You could do a whole themed paint night, paint each other, and then play Canvas.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Could be. So now let's move on to the first expansion of Canvas, which is
Reflections.
Canvas Reflections. Look at that collage.
Even a bigger piece of wall art.
Also wall art.
Also wall art.
Reflections adds a few elements to the game. First of all, there's now gold ribbons, which appear on the cards. And I think the biggest change is mirrored ribbons, or mirrored icons.
Cards, yeah.
So art can be mirrored now, and each of the side is a little bit different. You can flip them on the board or on your own, in your own hands to adjust to create what needs to be made for you with your inspiration and your art piece. Beyond that, there's now a board instead of a little mat, and the draft becomes bigger, so there's much more options of what you have to take. So you'll start out with more inspiration tokens, but now you have to give inspiration to everything in the columns before what you take.
There's a lot more choices, which makes the game a little bit more... You think a little bit more, that's
You think
for
a little
sure.
bit more. Well, that's a great transition. What does Reflections add to the overall experience and the overall game?
Well, we covered two of them already, essentially, and that's the increase in draft. So now you're getting to look at 8 cards, essentially, and decide if you have the tokens, whether or not you can grab those. So that's really nice. It gives like a more open spread of what you're able to accomplish with your paintings. And it means your scores are going to be that much higher. Or, hopefully at least. The next thing that I would talk about is, of course, that with a lot more decisions and a couple of the things that Ilya had mentioned, is there's an increase in complexity that comes along with this game. It ends up tugging you in a lot of different ways that the base game didn't necessarily do. You've got to think about scoring those gold ribbons if you really want, utilizing the mirror and how you can make that the most effective, and then also still paying attention to the goals that are present in your game.
Yes, with this expansion too, there's more goals, there's more art pieces, there's more, a little bit of everything. So it does take a little bit of a custom to being used to, oh, how does this goal function and what is the best strategy? And all of a sudden there's a new ribbon to pay attention to. So maybe I'll get this gold and do the adjacency and see if I can get that. What's going to happen?
And Canvas really does come down to one of those games that you're going to be like, deciding which is better or what do you think is better at the time that you're playing, because you have to decide, like, am I going to get more points for doing this goal or am I going to get more points for doing this goal? So adding a whole other thing to it just makes it that much more complex.
You definitely get to reflect a little bit in Canvas Reflections.
Oh, I see what you did there.
And then comes the second expansion, which is
the finishing touches.
Canvas Finishing Touches. Shift, 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 shift.
An even bigger painting.
And it can go on the wall. Now, Canvas Finishing Touches is exactly that. The finishing touches to the line of Canvas's games. Now, it adds a new ribbon.
Yes.
It's like a nice shiny platinum ribbon.
Another ribbon.
It's very fancy. And the way you get it is actually by achieving a frame.
Yeah.
So you can actually put paintings in frame if you meet certain conditions. And you're actually going to compete with your opponents to meet those conditions, because if you have the frames at the end of the game, you'll score an additional 2 points. Bam! The other thing that Canvas Finishing Touches adds is new icons.
Yes.
So there's a new star icon, which is a wild. You'll choose which symbol it represents. And a blend icon, which blends the symbol it is adjacent to become itself, which is helpful for some of the goals. On top of that, it comes with more art cards, more goals, a little bit of everything as the other expansion, and finally, score pads. The finishing touch in a game, I would say.
Especially now that there's so many different scoring opportunities, you gotta have that score pad.
Now, what Finishing Touches does is it really creates a dynamic of paying attention to which painting you want, which frame. Because it adds a little bit of a competitive element of like, ooh, Tyler is going for little gears over there.
Suns. They're suns.
Little gears over there. So maybe I don't want to pay attention to those, and maybe I'll focus on the squares. And there's a goal that corresponds with the squares, so that's fantastic for me. So I'm gonna get that painting and hold on to it. So I'm gonna overkill it with a lot of suns or gears.
I mean, perhaps maybe you want to take it away from the person that's at the table. The best part about finishing touches is it does add that bit of player interaction where you need to be paying attention to some of these things that are going on. Not necessarily, but it's a good little twist for you to like elevate your gameplay, think more about the strategy that you're going for, and grab those extra points or take them away from the people that you're playing with.
And the art cards in this game with the new symbols add so much more variety. Having a wild is actually really fun
Wild
because
is so helpful.
you can really make it anything. And all of a sudden it helps 3 of the goals instead of 1, but you only can choose 1 symbol for the wild, which is really fun.
The blend, too, is very interesting because unlike the ×2 that is on the cards, and I believe they start in the base game having
It's
the
actually
×2.
a Kickstarter exclusive little expansion,
okay.
yeah.
So there's a Kickstarter exclusive that has like ×2 on it. This, though,
arrows.
the blend actually pulls the symbols over to that color, to that slot, so you can actually capitalize on certain goals rather than that ×2 like blocking the opportunity to maybe get those things, for example.
Exactly. So overall, finishing touches adds a little bit of everything, increases the complexity slightly, and gives you much more strategies. I think lifting this from like a very light game to a medium game.
Yes, definitely. You're going to end up with a lot more decisions that you can make. Of course, you're always limited to the five cards in your hand to be able to, like, as a max hand size. So you're always going to have to craft like those, or at that point or earlier kind of thing. It does create a bit of flexibility in your strategy that feels really good. You don't have to fight as much for other things that other people are doing.
You don't have to fight.
Or you could choose to because of those frames that have been introduced, which is always an interesting little twist.
I want a frame. I want my piece of art to be framed. Yes. Now that's the 3 expansions. Now throughout the expansions in the Kickstarters, there's variants and mini expansions that were offered. So we're going to quickly run through them.
Yes, yeah. Starting with the award cards, which comes in the base Canvas game.
So awards throw in a competitive or a non-competitive mode where you can get additional points for having certain things on your board. The competitive is really fun because right off the bat in the first set of the game, you can compete whoever has the most of this symbol, for example, and they'll score an extra 3 points or something like that.
Now those are definitely more of a group element. The next variant that's introduced is called the signature style variant, which means you get almost like secret objectives given to you at the start of the game that give you a sense of like you've got to put animals in your paintings and you'll score 2 for every animal that's in your painting.
Or humanoids or something like that.
Yeah. So again, it does give you a sense of like where you need to be headed and a way to score more points, and then like a node to being a bit more creative with what it is that you do end up creating.
It's really funny too because it forces you to think, do I want the symbols or do I want what is on the actual painting?
Yeah.
And sometimes those two things don't work very well together for what you have.
Exactly.
So it creates a little bit of depth and strategy from that personal perspective. Now the next variant is the painter variant. And this is the player powers ability.
Ooh, did somebody say asynchronous?
Asymmetric?
Yeah. Asymmetric. That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
So you get a painter, and a painter can have an ability. Some of them are used once per game, some of them are ongoing abilities, and some of them are quite strong. And I think they're all strong in their own ways.
All of them are strong in their own ways.
And they model an actual painter in real life, which is really cool as well.
So all of these variants just add a small little touch, but you can play with all of them, technically. So you can start from the base, play a different game every single time, like 6 times.
Every game feels really fresh and different.
It's awesome.
So the last variant that we haven't talked about is the Best in Show and the Masterpiece variant. So you can play this game in a way where one winner will be the point winner.
Yes.
You'll win simply based on points. But the other winner is the best painter of them all.
Yeah,
so you'll look at all the paintings and you'll decide which painter has the best painting. And you can vote, you can do that any way you really want. And you each get a ribbon and you each win the game. So that's a way to kind of make the game a little bit less competitive and more fun and lean into that creative side. Because there are some really, truly funny, inspirational, sad artist combinations in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you could be super competitive and try to get both of them.
Best painting and best score?
score?
I wish.
Exactly.
So now we should talk about the solo mode.
I think you mean you.
It is a solo mode, I guess.
Bye!
Oh, wait. Just me, I guess. Well, there's 2 solo modes in this game. First one is painting with Vincent. In the first game, what happens is you get 4 inspiration tokens, or Vincent does in this case, and then you toss them and flip them and put them on a table or throw them on a table, and either face up, you'll place them on the cards, and once you stop, you'll take that card. Now, Vincent never collects paintings or makes paintings, but he'll take art cards away and cycle that through. It's also recommended to play with painting with Vincent with 2 players as well to get a little bit more of that cycling with the paintings going. Now, if Vincent ever takes any of the cards with tokens back, he'll have more tokens to flip later on. Now, in Reflections, Vincent starts with 6 tokens, and depending on how many he flips, even or odd, he'll either take from the top or the bottom, but they'll always refill from left to right. And lastly, with frames, painting with Vincent, there's a slight difference where in order to claim a frame, you need to have 3 of that symbol. And you won't get the ribbon unless you have 4. So that symbol and the wild. So it makes it a little bit tougher to get frames in the 2-player setting. Now, the other solo challenge is a solo puzzle challenge. This gives you a little bit more freedom to look at all the cards. You'll get inspiration tokens to start, and there'll be inspiration tokens on the side of the board as well. Now, instead of paying them on the cards, you'll pay them to the supply and discard the cards that you don't take. So the cards continuously cycle. Of course, you'll get an inspiration token if you take the card on the very left, or once you complete a painting. And this works the same as it scales up with more cards with different expansions as well. And that's the solo modes. Let's welcome Tyler back.
Now that we've got the solo mode out of the way, let's talk about the last thing, scenarios and achievements.
So each of the games will have scenarios that you can achieve. Now, the scenarios also guide you in the complexity and how you really want to structure your game night.
Yes.
There's a way to make it more friendly and more easier where everyone has more fun and scores more points, or more challenging and strategy based.
Yes.
You can of course choose any objectives randomly, but you can use these scenarios in each of the games to really guide you through how you want to play. The first game will also have achievements. And they're just a little paint blotches that you'll try to achieve throughout the game. Can you beat the designer score of 47? Maybe.
Yeah, you've got things that you can aim towards, and it's really nice to be able to easily just take out those scenarios and set them up without having to do the random, oh, this one doesn't actually work here, maybe it's too hard. It's a good little setup for everybody to have. Let's not forget that there's a big box for Canvas now.
It stores everything, absolutely everything that is in this game.
Does it hang on the wall?
It does not. I think it's too heavy.
I think it would be too heavy.
I think this is already a little heavy, but everything together is a little heavy. But it does have a really fancy transparent sleeve that changes the art based on how you turn it around.
Look at that.
So that's pretty cool. It also has 11 drawers that function as token trays. A larger deck box that actually holds all of the current cards, so you can mix them in each and every game without having to minimize your deck of cards. And of course, a master rulebook that captures everything that's in the game. Wow, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Now, with that said, that is everything you need to know
about Canvas.
And the expansion, the big box, and the variants, and everything. Canvas.
Everything.
Everything.
If you found this video helpful though, let us know down in the comments below. Give us that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Have you played the base Canvas before? Have you played any of the expansions? You know, just let us know.
You know. And for our question of the day, if you could know everything about something, what would it be?
Oh my goodness.
What would you choose?
I don't know. That's a loaded question.
I think I would choose mushrooms.
You'd want to know everything about a single topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a single, otters, I guess. We'll do that.
But I think you already know everything about otters.
No, I don't.
What do you not know?
Everything about otters. It has to be very, 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 specific. You can't say, math.
I think mushrooms would be fun because you can tell, do foraging facts, which ones are edible, survival, something cool about, there's a lot of stuff you would know, I think, if you knew mushrooms.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could learn a lot from otters, so.
An otter mushroom?
Maybe.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye!